My name is Jackson, and this is my final for English 1102. The title is The Destruction of Identity, Mental Health, Isolation, and the Control in the films The Black Swan and The Yellow Wallpaper. So for my first visual, it is the cover photos for both of the movies. A person's mental state is often affected not only by one's thoughts, but also by the environment that person lives in and how many people are putting the expectations on that person's shoulders. The amount of control that person has over their own life and the relationships that they have with others can also impact that person's well-being. In The Black Swan and The Yellow Wallpaper, it raises the common issue of destruction over one's identity due to the isolation and the lack of control over they have on their lives. In spite of the difference between the circumstances in the movies, both of them have a main female protagonist who undergo great psychological pressure leading to their mental breakdown. The film illustrates the harmful effects that controlling environments and unrealistic expectations can have on a person's identity. My second visual is Nina practicing her ballet by herself. In The Black Swan, Nina Sayers is a talented dancer who gets the offer of her lifetime when she is offered to perform the roles of the White Swan and the Black Swan in Swan Lake. However, in order to perform those roles, Nina has to take on a person who isn't herself. She has to become the White Swan, who is represented as an innocent, disciplined, and very perfectionate, while the Black Swan is a confident, free, and passionate person. It's very hard for Nina to embody those roles together due to the fact that she's very familiar with one, the White Swan, and the Black Swan is a completely different person than she's ever been in her life. My third is, that's Nina eating with her mother. Just look at the face. And that's Nina's bedroom. The control exercised over Nina's life is demonstrated by the relationship with her mother, Erica, who constantly controls her throughout everything she does, and she also treats her as she's still a child. Erica dictates what she has to be able to do and who she can also see, which takes away some of Nina's independence. Also, the apartment is very symbolic that because it's so pink and it's childish, it's almost forcing Nina to stay very innocent and very dependent as if she's still a child and she still has to listen to her mother throughout everything that she does. This is my fourth, and it's Nina looking into each of these are her with mirrors. The ballet company is another example of the control. There, Nina must be very perfect, believing that if she messes up, she's going to lose her opportunity to be the swans. The mirrors are used throughout the film, and it symbolizes the reflection and the split personality of Nina as if she's looking into herself, judging herself, and trying to become somebody that she isn't. With the help of the close-up shots used in the films, the distorted reflections, and the unsettling camera angles, the film allows us being able to see through Nina's point of view. It's not just showing that the character's losing the control over herself, but it's also being able to make the audience feel what Nina's going on to because of how unsettling everything is throughout the film. The climax of the loss of control takes place during Nina's final performance. When she's playing the Black Swan, she hallucinates that she is turning into the character actually. She believes that she has become perfect, however, at the same time, she's losing full control over her identity. Having stopped performing the role, Nina becomes immersed into it with its dark lighting, intense music, and strange visions. The audience sees her breakdown, and in the way, it's very extreme, and the pressure of the video or the part of the film is just leading to distortion of reality, and that is showing that Nina has lost all grip on reality. This is the main character of The Yellow Wallpaper. The Yellow Wallpaper raises the same issue. However, the pressure does not come from the desire to be perfect, but it actually comes from the isolation that this person has had on their mental health and the lack of freedom. The woman was taken into a secluded house by her husband, John, because she had a very bad state of mind and a very bad mentality, and it would just keep getting worse and worse. And her husband, John, thought that by putting her in a room away from everybody that she would eventually get better, but she actually got worse and worse and worse. The isolation becomes a reason for her mental breakdowns more and more. Most of the time she spends in her bedroom being separated from the rest of the world and unable to make her own decisions, which is a sign that she's losing her independence and her mental imprisonment is starting to become more and more prominent. This is a close-up on the yellow wallpaper itself, and this is a symbolic reference that she's not just seeing another person under the wallpaper, but she's actually losing grip of herself. So the wallpaper becomes the most vivid symbol throughout the entire movie. When the woman becomes more and more isolated, she starts seeing a woman who's trapped under the wallpaper, symbolizing her own imprisonment and her lack of control. This is the ending scene with the narrator and the wallpaper. By the end of the movie, the woman identifies herself with the woman behind the wallpaper completely, and it shows how the isolation and being locked by herself with the lack of freedom has changed her mind and her perception of reality completely. From the mere decoration on the wall, the wallpaper has become a symbol of the lack of freedom and the complete loss of one's actual perception on the world. This is the main character of the yellow wallpaper, and that's Nina in The Black Swan. Although there are many differences between the circumstances described in The Black Swan and the yellow wallpaper, the main idea remains the same. In the former movies, Nina was put in an environment where other people were confronting her, controlling her, and she didn't have much say over what she did. She was just trying to be very perfect. And in the yellow wallpaper, the narrator is in such an environment that deprives her of her own independence and her own freedom, that it's forcing her to believe that she can't make her own decisions. Still, both of the stories are told very differently. While the Nina and the Black Swan is dealing with a problem of public pressure, competition, and trying to be perfect, the yellow wallpaper is focused on isolation and imprisonment and the lack of freedom, which, while the first movie uses mirrors, music, lighting, and special visuals to demonstrate the process of Nina breaking down, the yellow wallpaper uses the story of symbolic references and the experiences that the narrator is using without having to use a bunch of noises and like flashing lights almost to represent that. So this is my last visual, and it says oppression equals insanity. So instead of using a picture, I decided to use a saying, because that's how I felt towards once I finished writing this. So it's important to understand that the psychological problems can be caused by various circumstances. It is not necessary to be physically imprisoned to lose control over herself, because Nina wasn't physically imprisoned. She was oppressed by the public, and while the narrator was physically imprisoned. In conclusion, The Black Swan and the yellow wallpaper prove that the identity and the mental health are tightly connected with freedom and independence, and Nina's hallucinations during the performance and the belief of the narrator that she has become the woman behind the wallpaper are the illustration of the results of the excessive psychological pressure. Both of the movies criticize controlling environments and unrealistic expectations, and will last forever as they emphasize the importance of autonomy and well-being in the mental health. I appreciate you watching, and I hope that I made sense.